In media, references are made all the time. Horror movies use references to share the creator's love of the genre with its fans, and some directors reference other films to enhance their own film's themes. But what is a reference?
I don't know. I don't really like labels.
And why do content creators use references so often?
And where shall we end?
Let's start by looking at Disney's new series of Mickey Mouse cartoons. The series currently has over 50 episodes, and unlike Mickey Mouse cartoons from the decade preceding it, this Mickey has a style more akin to his earliest appearance in Steamboat Willie from 1928, drawn as mostly black and white and with simpler lines, whereas the familiar Mickey is given more color, definition, and rounder features. Typically, Mickey is depicted as a wholesome, family-friendly mouse who gets caught up in troubles while trying to help other people. Although he's no stranger to frustration, he tries to keep a cool head and can even be timid or shy when talking to others. This is an image Walt Disney chose for the character after he was gaining popularity, in an effort to avoid parents' complaints that their children were watching something too violent or mean-spirited. The new mouse, again more similar to his Steamboat Willie counterpart, is much more self-interested and prone to violence. He acts at other people's expense in order to further his own needs. The show's backgrounds and costuming have changed as well. Their simplistic designs reference the days of 50s limited animation, started by UPA and copied by Disney in various shorts of the time. Limited animation was a style developed to make animation less time-consuming and cheaper when it all had to be hand-drawn. Messy-looking, colorful backgrounds were created to be easy to draw but still fit within the look of the world. New Mickey Mouse cartoons use these backgrounds, but instead of sparse scenery, they create detailed backgrounds in a limited animation style. Today, modern animation technology can create beautiful, rich backgrounds with relative ease. So if it's so easy to create beautiful backgrounds with today's technology, why use that style? And why revert Mickey's look to an old style rather than upgrade it? Well, it all comes down to nostalgia. What is nostalgia? It was first defined as the sad mood originating from the desire to return to one's native land, and now more broadly refers to a yearning for some past experience. Most people remember their childhoods fondly, and return to the shows they watched when they were young and still enjoy them. This tends to make people think that things were better when they were kids. What does this have to do with Mickey Mouse? Well, both Steamboat Willie and the limited animation aesthetic are cultural texts that general audiences are very familiar with. By making Mickey look like he did in one of his most popular incarnations, Disney is banking on people's nostalgia to get them to watch it. Older audiences will be drawn in by Mickey's classic look, and some will recognize the limited animation style and be attracted by that. Meanwhile, new audiences will eventually develop a nostalgia for these designs, thus repeating the process for the future. But does nostalgia alone work to capture an audience? Well, according to the numbers, yes. The new Mickey Mouse cartoons have millions of viewers each episode, but the show's content on its own is not very interesting. The 3-minute shorts all have incredibly similar plot lines that rely heavily on violence and anger. And are frequently sexist, racist, and transmisogynistic.
What dog?
The characters have all been boiled down to basic traits. Mickey and Donald only want to do things that benefit themselves. Minnie and Daisy only exist for the development of their male counterparts. And Goofy is whatever the writers want him to be that episode.
Hey, can't you clowns read? Ding dong! Say, Mick, I was wondering if I could borrow this here chair.
My chair? What for, Goof?
Charity.
Altogether, the show has nothing to offer beyond the way it looks, even going as far as including references to other Disney films and characters for the sole point of the reference, rather than furthering any kind of story. So is that all then? Is nostalgia only a tool to trick people into watching something flawed and uninspired? Let me introduce you to Over the Garden Wall, a 10-episode miniseries that aired on Cartoon Network in 2014 in the week leading up to Halloween. The story follows two brothers, Wirt and Greg, lost in a mysterious forest and trying to find their way home,
I'm Wirt, and this is Gregory.
And that's a horse.
accompanied by their pet frog
Benjamin Franklin!
and their new friend Beatrice, a bluebird.
Hey, what's that bird you got there?
It's a...
I am Beatrice. These two sweet kids and I got a bit lost in the...
The show draws inspiration from and references tons of animated shows from the early days of animation, all while having unique characters and interesting episodes and plot lines. One of the big inspirations for the show comes from Golden Age Disney animations like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Silly Symphonies. A lot of Disney animations have a focus on pastoralism, a sort of nostalgia for a simpler time that never really existed, where people were closer to nature and were generally happier because of it. This is very evident in Snow White, where the eponymous character can seemingly communicate with woodland creatures, and the forest and its animals eventually provide refuge for her. This translates directly into Over the Garden Wall, where characters and creatures are very often willing to help or at least be kind to Wirt and Greg on their venture home. At the same time, the pastoralism in these narratives is tinged with a fear of nature, a phenomenon specific to the industrial North American psyche. During the day, when the weather is perfect, there is nothing to fear in the woods. But once the sun is gone, the woods are a dangerous place to be. Nightfall or inclement weather signal danger for Wirt and Greg. It's where they face betrayal.
Welcome home, children.
Beatrice, what?
Encounter monsters,
You have beautiful eyes.
and lose hope.
Please stop pretending we're gonna get home.
Huh?
Can we admit we're lost for good? This fog is deeper than we can ever understand.
The characters that Wirt and Greg interact with also reference characters from early animated works. In the episode Songs of the Dark Lantern, they meet a tavern keeper who's designed after Betty Boop. And they meet the Highwayman.
I'll knock you out, drag you off the road, steal your shoes from off your feet, that highwayman.
We wanted to sort of look weird and out of place and kind of creepy. And a lot of old cartoons sort of, they would use sort of like rotoscoped. They would film someone dancing and they would rotoscope them, and they would, the model, like, because they were traced off live action, the models were sort of weirdly proportioned compared to like the other characters. So we tried to emulate that a little bit.
Every episode has at least one accompanying musical piece.
Oh, potatoes and molasses. If you want some, oh, just ask.
Just as many animated shorts in the past did.
Folks, now here's a story about Minnie the Moocher.
Episode titles directly reference older films. The Old Gristmill references a famous Disney short, The Old Mill. Mad Love references a 1935 film of the same name. And Babes in the Wood references a lullaby about two young children lost in the woods. Speaking of Babes in the Wood, the episode directly lifts the plot and even some images from one of Disney's earliest works, Alice Comedies. In the first short of the series, Alice is welcomed to Cartoonland, where the animals play a song for her before lions break loose and chase Alice away. In the Over the Garden Wall episode, Greg is welcomed to Cloud City, where the animals play a song for him before the evil North Wind breaks loose and chases Greg. The point is that Over the Garden Wall is chock full of references and homages to other media, even more references than the Mickey Mouse cartoons. But the reason for the references is different. The Mickey Mouse cartoons want the audience to like their show because it plays to their nostalgia. Over the Garden Wall is using that same nostalgia to fulfill the feeling of longing for the past that nostalgia creates. It's not just giving a wink and a nod to something you loved when you were a kid, it is acting as an updated version of its predecessors. The creepiness of the forest in Over the Garden Wall harkens back to the unsettling feeling of Snow White lost in the woods. The viewer who has seen both feels the impact of both forests in this moment, and the viewer who doesn't have this visual literacy is introduced to a new chapter of animation that, while steeped in traditional animation, is lush and innovative. So what I'm really saying is, don't watch the Mickey Mouse cartoons. Watch Over the Garden Wall.
I need to fix that last part, but that's the idea.